Connecticut East This Week is supported by CT Examiner, a multi-award winning online newspaper covering stories from across the state, from politics to business, health, education and the arts. For just a $20 annual subscription, CT Examiner will let you know what's happening where you live. ctexaminer.com, reporting and supporting what matters. Do you know how to engage with local government or get in contact with your local legislator? We talked to the founder of a new project looking to help the public participate more in government matters. Plus, we take a look at other stories making the headlines from around the region. This is Connecticut East This Week. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith. The new 2026 Connecticut legislative session started on February 4th, and that means you, the general public, have the chance to help shape policy here in the state, as well as give testimony on matters that interest or concern you, and to engage more with our legislators who are making decisions on your behalf. It may not be the sexiest of things to get involved in, local politics, but it really does affect us all. And when new laws are passed and you feel unhappy about them, well, you can help shape them and inform your legislator about your concerns before they vote on them and they become state statute. Josiah Chalet is a local journalist and knows all too well about engaging with the legislator and why it's important. So much so he's launching a new project here in the state to help provide information and resources to you, the voting public, about how you can be more engaged in the laws that ultimately affect us all. Here's my interview with Josiah about his Common Ground project. Josiah, thanks for being on Connecticut East this week. You are a fellow journalist and many other things. Just give us a little bit of your background before we get into the main thrust of the conversation, which is talking about a groundbreaking project that you've started.
It's great to be here. Well, I started off with an interest in cinema and shifted to school for journalism up in Vermont. Had a lot of good professors that worked for British broadcasting stations and really did a good job teaching me how to dive deeper into things, especially in an area where there isn't much news happening. It really taught me to think outside the box and kind of got me into the area of exploring public documents and public records and deals the town was making for infrastructure and why the sewage plant might have had a leak or why this keeps occurring over and over again. And through the years, I actually got more into live music media journalism. I got deep into that, got tired of it, and then naturally my interest in cannabis policy in Connecticut really piqued my interest. Because as a medical cannabis patient, there was a lot of issues with transparency and what was going on. And once I started getting involved, I realized that conventional journalism wasn't really looking into any of the issues. And unfortunately, I understood a lot of the media, it's not in their best interest to do honest deep dives on certain issues in Connecticut due to the heavy corporate interests. And that's just how it goes, unfortunately. But I got deeper and deeper into that. You learn more and more about the structure of how things work and really how much government has an influence on business in Connecticut, almost too direct and too connected. It's nice when they support each other, but not as directly as I've seen. So it's been very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point because, I mean, as a journalist myself, and I've started only recently, to cover more about things like cannabis and marijuana, sort of like arena, because there's so many different things. But it is interesting and trying to get information, as you say. You really do have to utilize so many different tools. And one of the tools, of course, is the Freedom of Information Act, which helps, but only goes so far. When you decided through your advocacy and also your involvement and your interest in the cannabis sector legislator in Connecticut that sparked this interest for this project that we're going to talk about now, which is an incredible project that you founded, I believe, December 18th of last year. You're calling it the Common Ground Project, with a subline saying where the public meets government as equals. Tell us why you decided to launch this project and what does that actually mean?
Because I basically want to help people skip the 2 long year process that I went through myself of awkwardly getting into the legislature, feeling like I'm intruding when I'm participating in a public hearing, feeling like I'm a burden trying to have a conversation with legislators, having shaky hands when you want to testify, feeling like you're sitting in front of a jury instead of what you're really sitting in front of is you're paying their paychecks and they're there to represent you. And it's just, I really want to share that with people that they do have the power as an individual without the need for $1 million lobbying group to go in there with powerful personal testimony and talk to these legislators. And you deserve to be heard. You deserve to make an impact. And it's really important that they actually listen to input from citizens, because I've seen a shift. It does take persistence. At first, they're very skeptical. Who is this person? What's their intent? How serious are they? Do they actually care about this issue? A lot of people are on their phones, unfortunately, not even listening. It's tough, and it can be really, like turn you off of it, make you want to give up. And then all of a sudden you'll make one connection with a legislator, some personal thing. Like for me, I got lucky. I had an issue about cannabis, the mold and yeast in cannabis, connected with the legislator who has a life-threatening mold allergy. And instantly she contacted DCP, talked to general law, and got things moving. So it doesn't always have to be money. It's always be personal connections. And also, one of the big things for me is what's more effective than money has ever been for me in the legislature is giving state reps and senators the opportunity to be the hero on a niche issue. Like they're spearheading something that no one else is addressing that's unique to your municipality or your personal interest or town. So I just want to help give people the power, help them skip the awkward learning part that's difficult to transition in there, and let them feel and know they're welcome in there, they belong there, and these people are not above you. We're all on the same level, and we deserve to be treated as such.
Do you think that people here in Connecticut probably, one, don't understand the structure of our legislature? It is a part-time legislature. It's not a full-time. These people have other jobs. They're thrown a lot of stuff, which, frankly, and I'm not being disparaging of their work, but they probably don't get to read half of it anyway, and yet they're being asked to then pass laws. And also, they're not necessarily the specialists either. I mean, they have a certain amount of specialism, but even if they sit on a particular committee, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have all the skills, all of the education, all of the specialism to necessarily understand those things. So it really is incumbent on people like journalists, the public, to be able, as you say, to access them and help to educate them so that they make better decisions for us.
Yes, incredibly, and it does help a lot. Just the last long session that we had, there was a judiciary hearing on THC blood levels per se and DUI enforcement, and I was lucky enough to have enough information. I gathered studies from AAA, pulled in stuff from all over the country on THC, blood limits, and DUI, and found that people who are even if they haven't used cannabis in the past 48 hours, it can still show up in their blood. So it's just not a reliable metric for intoxication. And I was able to help shift through talking with the Judiciary Committee, their fixation on blood to standard field sobriety tests where indication of being intoxicated is a more accurate metric. And just doing that simple research on Google, pulling all that stuff together, 10, 20 studies, submitting it online because you can submit testimony online, hard documents, and then also speak on it in person. It really can help change policy when you basically do the work for them that they may not have the time to do that they probably want to do, but there's a lot going on. So if there's a specific issue and you do the work for them, it is very likely that they will listen to what you have to say.
As we now enter very shortly in February of this year, the 2026 legislative session, it's what's called a short session. So not as many months of the legislature actually being up in the Capitol. So the amount of work doesn't diminish, but they've got a shorter amount of time to get things done. So even more important that the public understand that their input is very critical here. Talk to us about the Common Ground project. What are the things that you want to get people to understand? Who are you looking for? Just give us a sense of what you need from people to help make this project flourish.
Really, just the more community, the better that's involved. I'd love to have a flood of input from all over the state of issues people have in their town or their region that they think aren't being heard, but then we can mesh into one topic, find common topics that people are having issues with, put them together and help them either bring it to the legislature themselves or, someone like me can bring it for them on their behalf. So just helping people understand that their little issues can get heard and seen and put together. And the more people's input we have, the better we can relay that to the state, what people actually care about. Because a lot of people just go and vote and trust that the legislature is going to do what they'd like in their favor. But unfortunately, the reality is that sometimes that doesn't happen. Like I had talked with a senator about how bad a bill was. We had a 30-minute conversation. He goes in, they calendar 10 bills, vote on them as a block. And he comes out and says, "Oh, I just voted yes on that." like things happen and things move fast. So the more people collectively sharing on their concerns, the ideas, and also if they're willing to come to the Capitol and just having a presence there makes a difference. They're surprised to see individual citizens and not lobbyists. They genuinely are, and they pay attention.
Why it was important for the Common Ground to be non-partisan.
Just because whenever I just feel like it just narrows things very much, and I believe the reality I've seen in the legislature is that there are no true party labels. Democrats vote like Republicans, Republicans vote like Democrats. It goes back and forth and it all blurs. And what really matters is what's best overall for the people of the state of Connecticut. So getting caught up in red or blue does not benefit anyone. So just removing that also requires people to more intelligently look at the individual values that legislators hold. Look at their voting record on topics and not just say, oh, blue, good, red, bad. You actually have to look at, oh, how did they vote on taxes? How did they vote on housing? How did they vote on protecting their forests this year? It makes you actually personally evaluate them as a individual, not as a party label. It kind of cheapens the process, I think. Removing that, I think, forces you to go deeper.
When it comes to civic engagement, do you think it is, and I'm just going to be blunt here, do you think it is that people are just not interested, or it's that they just don't understand how they can actually engage civically within either their local community or at a state level?
I think they just don't understand. And also, when you're new and you go in, you give your heartfelt testimony, you feel ignored, you waited 3 hours to do it. It can be really disheartening. I got lucky to link up and meet with my best mentor has been Anderson Curtis from the ACLU. He taught me about either it can be right or you can be effective, and that sometimes you have to work with these systems that we see as broken and work within them and appeal to certain things like the revenue benefits of a topic as opposed to your heart and soul might be, I love the forest by my house, I want to protect it, but the state might care about, well, how much revenue can we get from that state park? So you have to come at it sometimes at an angle that doesn't fit what you feel like morally in your heart, but you have to be realistic to be able to reach people effectively and actually make change and get things moving. And
If
that's a
people
difficult compromise.
if people do get involved in your project, and we hope that people do, because as I said, I think it's an incredible undertaking by you, because it is, I personally think civics is something that should be taught more in schools, along with many other things. And when we're now finally starting to teach young people finances in school, so that when they enter the real world, they have an idea and a better grasp of what it is they're going to have to pay out for and the cost of living, as it were. What can people expect if they get involved in this? Ultimately, are you going to run things like workshops, or can you just give us a sense? Because people are going to be listening to this and going, yeah, okay, that sounds great. But what do I get out of it? What am I going to learn from this? What's my purpose in actually joining the Common Ground project?
I think what they'll have is a big boost in personal empowerment and just understanding that whatever they care about, whatever the issue is, they as an individual can go in there with $0, join this group, get some aid, whether it be on legislative research, financial research, or help telling the state how this will benefit their revenue, finding out which legislators to appeal to. They can get a lot done, and they can also teach other people. And I just really hope for it to have a snowball outrolling effect of one person can pass this information on to the next, and it just creates a larger effective system of people who are actually involved in our government. And I'd like to just expand that and expand that. So I know there are groups. I did one as a teen called Teen Pack, Teens in Government, worked with Senator Blumenthal, wrote like a sample bill, lobbied for it. But there aren't many programs like that nowadays, let alone for adults, let alone that are free and that you can just join and be a part of. And it's mutually beneficial for everyone. The more people there are, the more research can be done by small groups of people who have time in their hands. And I think it could just really just grow and grow. The more people are interested, and all the side conversations I've had in my town, even just municipal politics, it's surprising how much people care. So it's really connecting people who care, who don't realize other ones are out there, get them all together.
This is also about letting people know as well that there's boards and commissions in their own towns and cities that they can actually apply to be on. I don't think a lot of people realize that they don't have to go through some electoral process, but there are things that they can apply for and have an immediate effect if they even sit on a board or a commission in their own town.
Yeah, it's incredible what you can do. My friend just ran as an independent for a selectman, just had to get a certain number of signatures in a number of positions like zoning boards, wetlands commission, stuff like that. You just go on your town website and they have openings every year and how much the rolling basis is in your town. You can just apply and be very possibly be a part of that, or the Chamber of Commerce or whatever your interest is. It's not as gatekept as people think. You don't need some party commission behind you, like running for governor. And you can literally just run for first selectman in your town. If you get enough signatures, it's all it takes. A little
It
bit of engagement.
It sounds to me that basically what this project is that you're doing is really putting it under one title and letting people know and getting people to be part of this collective, saying, like, here's all these things here, rather than having people having to try and find all these things left, right, and center. Because even if you're the most adept Googler, user of technology, sometimes it can be difficult or quite lengthy to try and find things. It sounds like the Common Ground project is hopefully going to be a place where people can go just to find that information maybe more easily and understand it.
Yeah, I'd like to think of it as like a compression of information and a simplification, not dumbing down the information, but just putting things in plain words, because writing the legislator is rough for people to understand. That's why our legislators have aides to even interpret what half these bills mean, because sometimes they don't even make sense and they contradict themselves. So just having a place to compress a large amount of information and basically having a small area. Oh, there's 10 different subjects. I can touch on one and expand the information on that with talking to people or being connected with people or reading about it or just being directed on, sometimes it's not how much do you Google, it's what do I Google. And that's the important thing, is what to look for. And sometimes that can be the simple fix, is you're looking in the wrong place. You might do 100 searches, but you're missing that one. Could be right in front of you the whole time.
Well, it's been great talking to you. I wish you success. This is an incredible undertaking by you, but I'm so glad that you're behind it, certainly with all of your expertise. And I think it's going to be something great for people once it gets going. And I hope that you get plenty of people involved and interested in it. Josiah Chalet, journalist, multimedia expert, and government policy advocate. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you want to find out more about the Common Ground Project, you can contact Josiah directly at the Common Ground Project CT@gmail.com or visit the project's Facebook page at the Common Ground Project. Time now for a look at other stories making the headlines this week, supported by ctexaminer.com, reporting and supporting what matters. Workers at Connecticut's 23 service plazas on I-95, I-395 and Route 15 have begun bargaining with their employer Applegreen for better pay and rights just months after they successfully unionized. The 250 workers have become members of 32BJ SEIU, an affiliate of the Service Employees International Union. Rochelle Palache is Vice President and Connecticut State Director of 32BJ.
It's the first time that fast food workers in our state have been unionized. Some things we'd only seen in states like California or New York. So this is a huge moment for us. This has been a half a decade long fight for our members and our union at large.
And Palache explains why it was so important.
It's a very diverse workforce, Black and Brown immigrant community members. And we're not talking about, students or folks that are not looking to make this their sustaining job, so to speak. A lot of them, this is their only job. This is their full-time position. They have to pick up 2 or other 3 jobs. So we're trying to make sure that they have family-sustaining jobs so that they can thrive.
Already workers who serve food at the various fast food franchises at the service plazas and help keep them clean have seen increases in their wages and are looking to their employer for improved benefits like healthcare as well as flexible working scheduling, as many of the plazas are open 24 hours. The Terrace Theatre in Chester, Connecticut, part of Goodspeed's musicals, is set to cease productions this year as the organisation looks at its financial future. Vanessa Logan is the new managing director of Goodspeed.
We are taking a pause at the Terrace for the next year to really reevaluate how we are doing business there and identify ways of being able to support new musicals that are very costly and end with a deficit to the organization as a whole. It's looking at how theaters are struggling, not just in Connecticut, but around this country, is we're taking this moment to look at that.
Logan says it's not the end, though, of the terrace by far.
We love that space. In my interview process last spring, I adored the terrace and the commitment that this organization and our artistic teams and the creatives have to new musicals. 100% believe we're going to find a solution that may look different, but I think bringing back some new musicals to the terrace is not going to go away. It's just a moment for us to really take a look at how to balance that business model.
The Terrace Theatre is a former knitting needle factory that was donated to Goodspeed back in 1982 and was repurposed to develop new musicals and act as a second stage location for Goodspeed. Terrace Theatre will be used this year for summer camps to help educate young people in theatre and production instead. Connecticut groups are rallying support for a statewide climate superfund bill. Edwin J. Vieira from the Public News Service has this report.
It finds large-scale greenhouse gas contributors and uses the collected funds to support statewide climate resilience projects. Nearby Vermont and New York passed similar laws, which the federal government and fossil fuel companies are now challenging in court. Juliana LaRue with the Sierra Club Connecticut chapter describes some of the projects this would fund.
Whether that's building bridges to fortify them to make them stronger against climate-related weather, rebuilding bridges or rebuilding roads, making sure that municipalities have the resources to rebuild after storms.
These funds would also help farmers mitigate topsoil damage and provide compensation for farm loss. Reports show stronger storms are creating millions of dollars in damage. Extreme rain during the first 2 weeks of July 2023 hit Connecticut with 425% of its normal monthly rainfall. This led to $21 million in losses due to farm and crop damage. I'm Edwin J. Vieira.
And in the CT Examiner this week, the Connecticut State Office of Health Strategy has approved the application of the University of Connecticut Health Center to purchase Waterbury Hospital from the financially troubled Prospect Medical Holdings for $13 million. Yukon Health was the only bidder for Waterbury Hospital, which had been in danger of closing as a result of the bankruptcy action. In addition to the $13 million purchase price, Yukon Health officials said they would also invest another $250 million into improving the hospital. More than $8 million of the purchase price is to go to pay overdue property taxes and utility bills. In a special session in November, lawmakers approved $390 million in bonding to pay for the improvements to Waterbury Hospital. The decision by OHS to allow the sale imposes conditions on the transfer of ownership, including that Yukon Health provide an initial assessment of the condition of Waterbury Hospital and its operations, as well as a strategic integration plan within 9 months of closing and maintain or enhance services offered under the Waterbury Hospital license for at least 3 years and maintain service levels unless OHS grants prior approval for reductions. And Groton Town Council is set to decide whether it will ban the display of signs, banners and posters by meeting attendees. The proposed rule changes come after attendees have held signs to protest actions of the council after several contentious council meetings. Last April, meeting attendees held up signs to show support for Councillor Portia Bordelon when she was censured following allegations stemming from the sale of the former Groton Heights Elementary School. And in June, residents filled up a town council meeting holding signs stating Groton deserves better and calling on former Mayor Rachel Franco and Town Manager John Burt to resign following allegations made by local developer Eric Goodman. Councillor Adam Pacino, the chair of the Temporary Rules and Procedures Committee, said he was in favour of banning signs from council meetings because it could be, in his words, intimidating to folks in attendance, particularly to those who have opposite views to the sign holder. You can read those 2 stories in full and many others at ctexaminer.com. That's all from us for this edition. Do send us your questions and story ideas to the show via our website at connecticut-east.com or via our social platforms on Facebook, X and Instagram by looking for Connecticut East. And you can listen to the show again on our social platforms, on demand, and by asking your smart speaker to play Connecticut East This Week or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can listen to previous episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, follow, and share on your social media too. I'm Brian Scott Smith. Thanks for listening.